All right, let's jump into another deep dive. This time, we're going to be heading to the Himalayas. We're going to be exploring the mysteries surrounding Mount Kailash. Now, this place is a holy site for quite a few different religions, and it's also a magnet for mysteries and some strange stories. We've got a ton of articles and reports here to dig into, and I gotta say, I'm already pretty fascinated by just how unique and special this mountain seems to be.
Well, buckle up because we're going way beyond just the typical travel brochure stuff. We're going to be
Mm.
diving into some pretty out there concepts like altered time, a mountain that seems to move around,
Yeah.
and even some potential connections to ancient sites across the globe.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention now. Let's start with something basic. Mount Kailash is known for being incredibly difficult to climb. What makes it so challenging?
Well, it's not just your average difficult climb. Despite tons of attempts, no one has ever successfully reached the summit of Mount Kailash. And part of that is definitely because
Okay.
of just how treacherous the terrain is
Right.
and the really unpredictable weather conditions there. But then there's also this pervasive belief that the mountain is sacred. It's this place that's kind of forbidden to mortals.
Yeah, the Native Planet article
Yeah.
definitely mentioned that belief. It's like the mountain itself is somehow protected. It definitely adds to the intrigue.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact that nobody has ever summited it,
Hmm.
even with today's modern climbing techniques, it really fuels that mystery
Yeah,
and feeds that sense of the sacred.
for sure. And then there are all these stories about the mountain messing with people's sense of time. The article mentions this thing called rapid aging, where people report that their hair and nails grow super fast, like weeks of growth in just a few hours. Is there like any scientific explanation for that?
It's
Yeah.
definitely one of the weirder claims. And while there's no hard scientific evidence to back it up, it could potentially be related to the extreme conditions up at that altitude. Hypoxia, you know, oxygen deprivation can have some pretty strange effects on the body
Yeah.
and the mind. It can mess with our perception of time. It can even cause hallucinations.
So are you saying that it might not be the mountain itself, but actually just the way our brains react to being up there?
Yeah, exactly. The human mind is a powerful thing. And in extreme environments, it can start to perceive things in pretty unusual ways.
Ah,
That's not to say that there isn't anything else going on, but it's definitely a good starting point
Yeah.
for a scientific explanation.
that makes sense. And speaking of disorienting experiences, the article mentions how some people claim that the mountain seems to shift positions, like it'll block paths, almost like it's intentionally messing with them. What could be happening there?
Well, again, the terrain and the high altitude probably play a big role. Mount Kailash's slopes are really difficult to navigate. And up that high, disorientation and fatigue set in super quick.
So you're thinking it's more about our own human limitations than the mountain actually like being a trickster.
Well, it's probably a little bit of both. The physical challenges are definitely real, but then there's also this psychological element, like the mountain's reputation, the stories that we've heard. They all feed into how we perceive it. We might be more likely to see what we expect to see, even if it's just our minds kind of playing tricks on us.
Okay, so we've got a forbidden summit. We've got possible time distortions. What else is there? The Native Planet article mentioned something about it being called the Axis Mundi. What does that even mean?
So the concept of an axis mundi is actually found in a bunch of different cultures throughout history.
Yeah.
It refers to a central point that connects heaven and earth. It's like a cosmic axis that the whole universe revolves around.
So some people believe that Mount Kailash is the central point.
Exactly. And it's actually fascinating how this concept kind of transcends cultural boundaries. We see similar ideas in ancient traditions
Yeah.
from all over the world,
Well,
all pointing to this sacred center, this point where the physical and spiritual connect. And Mount Kailash, with how massive it is and how important it is to so many different religions, it just fits that archetype perfectly.
it's amazing how something as like seemingly simple as a mountain can hold such a deep meaning for so many different people.
Yeah, I think it speaks to our human desire to connect with something that's bigger than ourselves, to find meaning and purpose in the universe.
Mm.
And Mount Kailash, with all its mystery and how grand it is, it kind of seems to offer a tangible representation of that yearning.
I like that. And then there are the visual aspects of the mountain. The article mentions that its shadow looks like a swastika. And the snow formations often look like the Om symbol. It almost seems too perfect to be a coincidence, right?
Yeah, those visual elements definitely add another layer of intrigue. And whether they're intentionally formed or just a trick of nature, they definitely speak to the power of symbolism and how that can shape our perception of a place. For the people who believe in the mountains, spiritual significance, They see those symbols as further evidence of its sacred nature.
Okay, so we've got the Forbidden Summit, we've got time warps, cosmic connections, and now for a theory that might just blow your mind, the article mentions some people think that Mount Kailash might not be a mountain at all, but a giant pyramid. What are your thoughts on that?
Ah, the pyramid theory. It's definitely a popular one. It makes sense, right? It's fueled by the mountain's unique shape, how symmetrical it is, how straight its sides are. It's definitely captivating. But the scientific consensus is that Mount Kailash is a natural formation, shaped by geology over millions of years.
So fun to think about, but not really any evidence to support it.
Basically. But even if it's not a man-made pyramid, the fact that it looks so much like one definitely sparks that curiosity, makes you wonder what other secrets it could be hiding.
Right. Now that we've talked about the mountain itself, let's shift our focus to what's at its base. The article talks about these two lakes, Manasarovar and Rakshas. One's round like the sun, and the other's crescent-shaped like the moon. That's some pretty amazing imagery. What's the significance of these lakes?
Well, they're not just pretty features of the landscape. They represent a duality, like a contrast between light and darkness, or good and evil. Manasarovar, the round lake, is a freshwater lake, associated with purity, enlightenment, and the divine. While Rakshas Tal, the crescent one, is a saltwater lake, and it's linked to darkness, the unknown, and even demonic forces.
It's like they represent two sides of the same coin, right there at the base of this mysterious mountain.
It's a powerful image for sure, and it reflects this theme that runs through a lot of the stories and beliefs about Mount Kailash, this idea of balance, these opposing forces that exist in harmony. It's a reminder that even in the most sacred places, there's always a darkness, an element of the unknown
Yeah.
that we can't fully understand,
Right. I love that. So we've gone through some of the physical and symbolic mysteries of Mount Kailash, but now I'm curious about its historical and cultural significance. What role does it play for the people who live around there?
Well, Mount Kailash isn't just this geological wonder. It's a really profoundly sacred site for a whole bunch of major religions, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and the Bon religion of Tibet. Each tradition has its own unique set of myths and legends about the mountain, about where it came from, and the spiritual power that it holds.
That's amazing. It must be one of the few places in the entire world that has that much meaning to so many different groups of people.
It really is. And for centuries, pilgrims from all these different faiths have been drawn to Mount Kailash, undertaking these really difficult journeys to circumambulate its base.
You're talking about the Korah, right? I remember reading about that.
Exactly, the Korah. It's a pilgrimage, a ritual walk that goes all the way around the mountain, a journey that's believed to cleanse your soul, bring you good fortune, and maybe even grant you enlightenment. Some pilgrims even do full-body prostrations along that whole 32-mile path, which is a real testament to their devotion and the power that they believe the mountain has.
Wow, that's some serious dedication. What do you think makes them want to go on such a hard journey?
Well, I think it comes back to that human need for connection, for something bigger than ourselves. You know, the world can feel pretty chaotic and uncertain sometimes, but Mount Kailash represents stability, ancient wisdom. It's a place where people can connect with their faith, with history, and with something larger than themselves.
It sounds like Mount Kailash is a focal point, not just for spirituality, but for human curiosity in general.
Yeah, you're right on the money. We're naturally drawn to the unknown, to places that kind of challenge how we understand the world. And Mount Kailash, with all its mysteries and contradictions, it embodies that feeling of wonder perfectly.
I'm with you on that. All right, so we've talked about forbidden summits, time warps, cosmic connections, ancient pilgrimages. What are the big takeaways from this deep dive into Mount Kailash?
You know, one thing that really stands out to me is that sometimes the mystery is more important than the actual solution. So instead of trying to debunk every myth or explain every weird thing that happens there, maybe we should just embrace that sense of wonder, that awe that a place like Mount Kailash inspires.
So you're saying it's not about conquering the mountain or figuring out all its secrets, but about approaching it with a sense of respect.
Exactly. Mount Kailash invites us to question things, to explore, to push the limits of what we think we know. Whether you're coming at it from a scientific perspective, a spiritual perspective, or just plain curiosity, gives you a unique opportunity for some personal reflection and growth.
And what about our listeners? What can they take away from this?
What if the real mystery of Mount Kailash isn't about what it is, but what it represents to U.S.?
Interesting. Are you saying that it's more About the journey than the destination?
I guess, in a way, yeah. It serves as a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that the universe is huge, and maybe even a reflection of our own search for meaning and purpose. It challenges us to look deeper, to question what we think is true, and embrace those mysteries, the ones that are still hidden, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
This whole deep dive has given me so much to think about, and I kind of feel this sense of peace now. Like, it's okay to not have all the answers. There's a real beauty in the unknown, in the questions that make us want to keep learning.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Sometimes the most profound experiences we have come from accepting what we don't know, from recognizing that there are things in this world that we just can't explain. Mount Kailash, with how mysterious it is, reminds us that the journey of discovery is often more rewarding than actually finding the answer.
It's about the journey, the questions, that sense of wonder that keeps us exploring and finding new ways of looking at things. That's a powerful message, one that we can carry with us, even when we're not thinking about Mount Kailash.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like Mount Kailash
Mm-hmm.
is less about finding concrete answers and more about going on that journey of exploration and self-discovery.
Yeah, I think so. There's something to be said for recognizing that we don't know everything. Instead of forcing our own interpretations or explanations onto the mountain, maybe we can learn from it, let it challenge our perspectives, and, broaden how we see the world.
So are you saying that the key to understanding Mount Kailash
Yeah.
is to approach it with respect and curiosity?
I think so. Instead of trying to conquer it, we can learn from it. And who knows, maybe that approach will reveal way more than any expedition or scientific study ever could. This whole deep dive has been so interesting, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of everything that Mount Kailash has to offer. But I'm definitely feeling inspired to learn more. Do you have any advice for our listeners who are feeling the same way?
I'd say check out some of the sources that we've mentioned throughout the episode. We'll make sure to include links in the show notes. There's a ton of information out there, like first-hand accounts from pilgrims, scientific studies on the mountain's geology, explore different viewpoints, read up on the myths and legends for the different religions that see Mount Kailash as sacred, watch some documentaries, look at photography, even check out other podcasts.
It's like we've opened this door to a whole new world of exploration, and now it's up to everyone listening to keep that journey going.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to just follow your curiosity. What is it about Mount Kailash that speaks to you? What mysteries are you most drawn to? Let those questions guide you and see where you end up. There are no right or wrong answers. It's all about your own personal journey.
Okay, I love that. So, to wrap things up, Mount Kailash is way more than just a mountain. It's this point where spirituality, mystery, and human fascination all come together. And whether you think it's a pyramid, or a portal, or just a stunning natural wonder, you can't deny its power to capture the imagination.
And maybe that's the most important thing that Mount Kailash teaches us. In a world that's so focused on what we know, it reminds us that there's still so much that we don't understand. It encourages us to explore, to ask questions, and to be open to all those mysteries that are still out there.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.